I'm gonna make this as quick as I can because in about 20 minutes from the time I made this video, I'll be watching the movie Oppenheimer. And obviously, I'm gonna make a video review of it, so there you are. Anyway, there's something I've been meaning to talk about, and it's come up this weekend even much harder than it has, and quite honestly, I think it's time for it to come out. Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, presidential candidate, is a racist. Straight up, I'm just gonna say it right where it is. He is a 100% racist. He's been trying to whitewash history, trying to cover up the ugly history of this country, especially when it comes to slavery. Now, I got this from the Florida Board of Educators website. It just makes me sick to my stomach reading this. I mean, take a look at this. The new standard requires instruction for middle school students to include how slaves developed skills in which some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. A document listing the standards posted in the Florida Department of Education website said. So you're trying to say that, oh my God, you're trying to actually say that slavery was beneficial because it helped people learn certain skills? Slavery wasn't beneficial for anyone, especially African American slaves. People who were treated less than, people who were raped, murdered, beaten. But it just keeps getting worse. When high school students learn about events such as the 1920 Akasi Massacre, the new rules require that instructors include acts of violence perpetrated against and by African Americans. Are you freaking serious? Are you serious? Acts of violence perpetrated against and by African Americans? There was no acts of violence perpetrated against by African Americans in that particular massacre. In case you don't know what the Akasi Massacre is, it was 1920. Two people were trying to, matter of fact, here's the facts. The massacre is considered the deadliest election day violence in the history of the United States. And according to several histories of the event, it started with a man named Moses Norman, a prominent black landowner in the Akasi, Florida community, attempted to cast his ballot and was turned away by white poll workers. And what did those white poll workers do when a black man was trying to vote? The greatest sin, a black man voting? Now, this leans into something else I'm going to talk about, but what happened, obviously, was the KKK went into that community and murdered people. They murdered them. Burned down homes, burned down almost the entire community. Lynchings, shootings, burnings. One of the greatest massacres connected to elections in history. And the worst part about it is, that Ron DeSantis just wants you to focus on what the black people did then, not on what the Ku Klux Klan did. And that, real quick, I'm going to tell you this. I keep getting from Donald Trump supporters, the MAGA and Republicans, why are you voting Republican? Why are you voting Democrat? Why did you vote for Joe Biden? He oppressed you. He had slaves. He took slaves. The Democrats are the party of the Ku Klux Klan. They founded the Ku Klux Klan. I get that crap all the time. So why wouldn't you want to have something like this come out? Why is Ron DeSantis trying to hide this? If it's because the Ku Klux Klan were founded by the Democrats, this will only help Republicans. But here's the thing. Ron DeSantis is not intelligent enough to know that. And more to the point, it will backfire on him and so many people out there instantly. You see, African Americans in this country need to start paying attention to what Ron DeSantis is doing. It's not just about banning books and destroying whitewashing history. He's trying to make the past, the blood, the original sin of this country go away. It's not going to go away. Everywhere we look in this country, there's reminders of slavery. Everywhere we look in this country, there's reminders of that original sin. 3 years ago, I went to Washington, D.C. I went to the Smithsonian Museum of Black History, African American history. I was reminded of the history of the slave trade here in the United States. And it wasn't the rosy palm BS that Ron DeSantis and so many of the MAGA want us to believe in. Does this country have blood on its hands? Yeah, damn straight it is. But why wouldn't you want to learn about that history or to make sure it doesn't happen again? I love my country. I stand for my country. I love the flag. I love the Constitution. Unfortunately, it is not without sin. None of us in this country are. And the people who say they are lying to themselves and lying to others. I'm not without sin. I admit that. If you ask my family, they admit they're not without sin. But it's the way we learn about those sins to make sure they don't happen again. This country has to learn about the original sin of slavery, the massacre of the Native Americans, the Japanese at Manzanar, all the dark shades of history to make sure it doesn't happen again. But Ron DeSantis is so, I don't know if he's so ignorant or the fact is he's just so blind or just so hateful to say that. I just feel so sorry for people like them. They just want to be so ignorant of this country, so ignorant of its history, even if it shines a dark light to it. Even if it shows the darkest of the dark, the blood. We can be better. We have to be better to survive as a country, and that includes learning about the Tulsa massacre, the Akashi massacre, the slave trade in which the United States was a prominent member of. Slaves built this country. The White House and the U.S. Capitol, which people like Ron DeSantis want to be a part of. That was built by slave labor. We built the United States of America. It wasn't George Washington. Yeah, he created the Declaration of Independence. Yeah, he created the documents in which these people, the MAGA, want to see as holy writ until it's time for time for them to practice what they preach. But when it comes to the actual people who built America, our ancestors, our descendants, they just want to throw them to the ash heap. That's not going to happen. And as much as the MAGA wants it to happen, it's not going to. You know why? Because people like me and people like you, I pray, will continue to make sure that that doesn't happen. We need to learn about what's good about this country, but we also need to learn the bad about this country. We need to learn about Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, and we definitely need to learn about Frederick Douglass and W.E.B. Du Bois. You can't have one without the other. Sorry, MAGA. Sorry, Republicans. Sorry, DeSantis. It's not going to work. Because if you try to do that, you're no better than the book burners in Nazi Germany. No better whatsoever. Maybe that's what you're trying to do. I pray to God it's not. Because if you truly love this country, especially you, DeSantis, you were a United States Naval Judge Advocate General officer. You of all people should understand what this country is supposed to stand for. But apparently you don't. And that is why you cannot be allowed to remain as governor, and you cannot become president of the United States right next to Donald Trump. You're a disgrace to what this country is supposed to represent. And if you want to pretend and say that you are what this country represents, prove it. Stop this whitewashing of history and stop trying to destroy American history. Black history is American history. Sorry, DeSantis, but that's the way it is. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.